Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a quick self-reflection video based on perks that I have found a lot more value in using that I didn't quite before. Trying to avoid using perks I underrated so much so it doesn't seem kind of like a little scam video. Featuring in today's video is also going to be the Reddit post by Turtle225, who is a famed Battle Brothers data miner, tester, content creator, really important guy who's found a lot of things, on the Steam forums, on Reddit. He does a lot of testing, and he's a really reliable source of information and a good player. So I think that this post actually holds some weight. It's not like Joe Schmo is talking about, how he uses rotate on 100% of bros, and therefore rotate's a great perk. So I'm going to be talking about 5 perks that I have found more value in using, and then we're going to take a look at Turtle's post and see how much he has used those perks, and then I'll just, kind of do a little bit of comparisons, not bashing the guy. I'm going to link his channel in the description, and then we can just have this little discussion here. Turtle, if you want to talk afterwards, go right ahead. I have no expectations of anything. So, first perk I want to start with is Dodge. I think Dodge and Initiative overall have actually become parts of my play style more than they used to, which means more than about 0. I used to think Dodge was kind of bad, or not worth the perk point. I didn't think Initiative was really worth the perk point, or worth the stat points there. I would use Dodge on a Fencer. I used Dodge on, a Catal mace build that I made. Don't actually really know why I did that. I just kind of thought, oh, he could use Dodge, and then he did. But other than that, I don't think I actually ever leveled up Initiative or picked Dodge on anyone. Oh, and the Flail Headhunter build, but I don't stand by that. I think that build in my video I called for Dodge Relentless, but it should be Colossus Underdog or something. Point is, I didn't really take Initiative. But with special snowflakes coming up, are currently in progress, and my behind-the-scenes little Initiative campaign that people may or may not have seen with the stream highlights and the 22 Barbarian video, I'm actually really taking Initiative seriously now, or I'm attempting to, and it's come to good results. Dodge tanks are really strong. If you can get a tank, let's say you have a Nimble tank, and he's got 40 base melee defense at level 11. So that's really good. That's what we already want anyway. Let's say he also has 130 initiative on top of that. So maybe he sacrificed 15 HP and an 8 stam. But he's got 130 initiative. So now he actually has, what's 15% of that? It's it's 15, 16 dodge or something. So on top of this, he's actually got base 55 or 60 at level 11. So as long as you don't actually sacrifice your real raw melee defense, a dodge tank is just better in some ways, because they have the extra benefit of the dodge melee defense and the range defense without really many of the significant drawbacks, because you don't get hit as often, so the HP isn't that much of an issue. The stam is kind of an issue, but they're already wearing light armor to make use of initiative, so their stam tends to be about the same as your regular Nimble or Battleforge tanks in my experience. I've also done some initiative backline work, with initiative polearm, overwhelm guys. Those guys have been really helpful. I think if you're making a pure polearm backliner, which maybe you will or won't do, I think you should try and put initiative on them. And then maybe give them dodge. They don't need that much melee defense, maybe 20, and a lot of that can just come from dodge. It's not a lot, but it'll stop them from just getting auto hit every time. Same thing I do with my hybrid builds, is I give them about 20 melee defense, just so I know they might dodge something, and it's not that much of a stat investment for me. And what the initiative backline does is it lets you act before a lot of frontline enemies. Like a significant amount of frontline enemies. You can act before raiders, nobles, The thing is, you can do that throughout the fight. You can do it because, sometimes you have nimble guys that'll go in front of other enemies, but once they get fatigued out, they won't anymore. But these initiative dodge backliners actually can do that quite well. So I'm going to pair dodge with relentless here. When you're taking, I would never take dodge without relentless. I don't think that's a good idea. I think you could probably take relentless without dodge. Maybe I'm not thinking of it correctly. But it seems to me that you want to actually get the most amount of benefit from dodge, so you probably want to take relentless. Looking over at Turtle's pick rate for dodge, he puts dodge at 33%, which is certainly higher than what I'm doing overall. Because my first big company since Blazing Deserts came out is like 80% Battle Forged or something. So that's the campaign with like the fencer and the 3 guys I said that actually use dodge. So that's very, very few. More recently though, I've been using my most recent campaign probably has like I don't know, maybe it is 33, maybe it's 50% dodge. It's pretty fucking high. Two dodge tanks, 3 gunners, and they have all taken initiative, so they all have dodge as well. So that's 5. Couple of backline have taken dodge. It's probably like 8 or 9. So that's probably like a 50% dodge rate. So if you average it out, I'm probably around like, I would say maybe 25%, 33%. Doesn't sound that bad. Kind of depends on what I'm going for. But my point is that dodge has gone way up for me, and it has gone up, or it's at least high for Turtle as well. The second perk I want to talk about is Adrenaline, and I'm doing it second so I know people wouldn't just skip away. And it's going to be really quick because I've talked to death about Adrenaline. I've used it a lot more than I used to, which was basically never. Similar with dodge, I actually never used Adrenaline because I missed the Adrenaline recover cycle when I started playing. And then, so people stopped using it, and then I started using it later. So my Adrenaline pick rate is like fucking through the roof early game. By level 11... it's probably like 40% in my most recent campaign, depending on how many people actually made it to the end game. And I'm picking it less on people that I know will make it and more on people that I know like, oh yeah, you're going to make it to like level 10 and then I'll just dismiss you. So going over to Turtle, Turtle has a very low percentage for Adrenaline compared to myself at 9% at level 11. So he clearly, I don't know how he plays entirely. I'm not going to try and pretend I know this. Maybe he takes it a lot early game and does what I do and he just dismisses more or they die more. I can't imagine that's really the case. He's probably just not taking it as much as I am. Alright, third perk is Resilient. I used to think Resilient was the worst perk in the game. Now I think it's one of the worst perks in the game. But I've been enlightened as to a couple of scenarios where you may want to pick Resilient. So if you don't know what Resilient is, because you've never picked it, it makes any status effect with a finite duration, such as Bleeding or Charmed, have its duration reduced to 1 turn. Status effects that have their effects grow weaker over several turns, such as Goblin Poison, are in their weakest state from the start. So, why would you want Resilient? Normally you wouldn't. Bleeding, a whole perk to make you bleed less is not worth it. Charmed only affects Hexen, which you can just avoid fighting. So I wouldn't take the perk for that. Things like Daze are 2 turns, so you do reduce that to 1 turn, which I guess could be nice, but you don't get dazed that often. Like Assassins could daze you, and a Hedge Knight with a 200 mace can daze you, but oftentimes you're not. I guess Barbarian and Chosen can daze you as well, but often you're not really getting dazed that much. Maybe Stagger, and that's kind of where I think it works, is for like Stagger. And then for things like Insect Swarm, and Goblin Poison 2, I believe. Because all of those debuff your initiative. And on initiative builds like a Fencer, or an initiative backliner, or a dodge tank. When your build is centered on and good when you have really high initiative, losing it over resilient kind of kills your whole build. So that's the one thing where I can kind of see resilient being a little okay for. The other thing is if you're doing a challenge run where you have like 5 bros, which I kind of tried to do with a little bit of a meme origin, you want resilient then, because if you only have 5 dudes and one of them gets charmed or dazed or insect swarmed and is like basically useless, that's like 20% or 25% of your whole company. It's okay if you lose one guy to insect swarm when you have 12, because that's 87.5% of your company that's still good. But if you have like 75% of your company that is not good, that's a problem. So those are the few uses where I would pick resilient. I think I've yet to actually pick it on more than like 2 people, but still, at least there's a reason now. It's better than I don't know why I would pick this. Turtle has a 3% resilient pick rate over his 120 bros, so he's about right there with me with not picking it at all. And he's a very experienced player, so I'm sure he's drawn similar conclusions to my own, although I will not put my words in his mouth. Next perk I want to talk about is Quick Hands. Quick Hands is so vital, I'm finding, for a lot of the builds I'm kind of trying to go for. And I think what really opened my mind to this is horrible hybrids, is everyone had to pick Quick Hands. So my Quick Hands pick rate is actually going to be higher than Turtles, because I did a whole company where you had to have Quick Hands. But the polearm frontline is super good. And the reach weapon frontline is super good. If you just have a pocket reach weapon, sometimes you can't hit people based on like positioning or tiles or just terrain in the way. You won't have the AP to move and attack. And the solution there is to just have a reach weapon. And I think a lot of people have started doing this. It's kind of what the Stam neutral build is. But I like to do it on just regular fatigue building up kind of builds. And Quick Hands also helps you use nets and holy water for Black Monolith, or, you know, pots and grenades. There's so many things that I wasn't really doing before. You know, before I would use Quick Hands on a hybrid, or maybe on a whip build, and that's about it. But there's so many things, particularly the reach weapons, or like, you know, like duelist polearm is becoming part of my thing. You know, just trying to maximize my AP usage with attacks, as opposed to ending my turn with like 5 AP left. Oh, I can't move and attack, so I'll just stay here. Oh no, I'll Quick Hands, and if I have polearm mastery, I can smack him with a bill hook. There's so many great things that Quick Hands allows you to do. And my Quick Hands pick rate has gone up really high, and I believe it will be higher under Special Snowflakes as well. Going over to Turtle, Quick Hands is his 4th most picked perk at 55% of 120 bros. That's, you know, like 62, 63 bros if I am doing my math right, which is huge. That's behind Colossus, Nimble, and Pathfinder. And he says that he picks Pathfinder at 100%, more for a convenience sake than a min-maxy sake. You know, he doesn't want to have like half his team of Pathfinder and then forget that, oh, this last dude doesn't have it and now he's out of position. So he picks Pathfinder on everybody. So if you don't count that, then it's actually like third of all perks in the game. He does Quick Hands, which is huge. I don't know if I'm at that point yet. My Colossus pick rate is certainly higher. My Nimble pick rate is certainly higher. My Berserk and Killing Frenzy pick rates are undeniably higher as well. But Quick Hands is probably in my top 5 perks, and like just for how good they are, and probably then top 10 for pick rate. Finally, the 5th perk that I used to not like as much is Nimble. My most recent company, which focused a lot on initiative, has taken so much more Nimble. And I added that qualifier there that they care about initiative, because of course you wouldn't have initiative with Battleforge. It doesn't make any sense. But nevertheless, I've been using so much more Nimble. than I used to. In that most recent company, I believe there is one guy with Battle Forged, and there's one guy that is Nimble Forged, where he took both. Everybody else is Nimble. I have all 3 Nimble tanks, although Nimble tanks, that's a result of not finding good people for Battle Forged tanks. I still think Battle Forged tanks are really good and probably better than Nimble tanks. But that's just who I happen to find. But 2 initiative tanks, and the initiative tanks are really good, and we talked about that with Dodge. But Nimble allows for an initiative play, so when you find the value in initiative play, you have to go Nimble. And Nimble allows your campaign to go quicker, because once you get 110 gear from Raiders, you're in basically B tier Nimble gear. A tier Nimble gear is like famed armor and assassin robes. So you're in basically top tier Nimble gear from Raiders. Whereas with Battle Forge, you have to start killing like knights, hedge knights, Zweihanders, buy from shops, maybe kill some mercenaries. The way to get B tier Battle Forge gear, which is like 200 to 250, or maybe 200 to 300, and then A tier would be named, is a lot higher and a lot more rare. So you can get much more up to speed with a Nimble company because you need fewer things and fewer rare items to get there. Also means you have more fatigue. You can just have more items in your back and you can cycle quicker. If you have your awesome 320 mail and it gets beat up in a fight, you have to repair it. You probably don't have like 5 320 mails sitting around for most of the campaign. But having 5 spare 110 mails, that's really easy. I have maybe 8 115 mails in that most recent campaign after fighting a bunch of nobles. And that allows me to take about maybe all my armor damage and 5 to 10 HP damage on a Nimble guy, throw the new armor on him, just repair the old armor, and his HP is fine. He's not going to die even being short of 10 HP because he's Nimble. It's very, very good. And I think a lot of people underrate Nimble and think Battleforge is better. I think endgame Battleforge is better. Famed armor, additional for padding Battleforge is probably better than Nimble can ever hope to be, just because there's so much sustain. But that's not really possible for most people. For virtually all of the campaign, you're just not going to have that much famed Battleforge gear, bros that can wear it, and additional for padding. So you have a lot of people who just kind of default onto Nimble, and you don't have to force Battleforge. You can just use Nimble. Nimble is really good. Turtle has Nimble at his second highest after Pathfinder, so at 80% Nimble. My most recent campaign is over 80% Nimble. The campaign before that, which is my slings only run, that is pretty heavy Nimble. Maybe like 50, 60 Nimble. Maybe a little bit under, I don't know. And then my decorated full helms, which is the guys from all of the Battle Brothers Fight Guide videos, they are like probably 80% Battle Forged. So the trend is I've gotten more Nimble the farther I go, and I imagine Special Snowflakes will be a lot Nimble. Horrible Hybrids was Horrible Hybrids I think was mostly Battle Forged, but if I played it better, I would have used more Nimble on a lot of bros. I didn't end up getting to a point where I could use a lot of the Battleforge gear. I didn't want to play that campaign for long enough to get there. So I ended it with Battleforge dudes in basically C tier Battleforged gear or like B tier Nimble gear, or they would have had B tier Nimble gear. And I just made them Battleforged because that's what I was used to doing, and I wasn't used to just taking Nimble a lot. Now I want to talk about a few other perks that I've kind of stopped using, or that Turtle has really high pick rates for, and just kind of give my thoughts on that. Rotate is the first one. I've taken a lot less rotate on bros. I've even stopped taking rotate on a few of those initiative tanks. Point being that they were really perk starved. They were stat starved for resolve, so I took Fortified Mind on the tanks, and then drop Battleforge for Nimble. You get Brawny back because you don't take Brawny, so you take Dodge. and then you drop Gifted for Relentless. The point being is that you actually don't have all the perks that you would on a regular Nimble or Battleforged tank, because you need Dodge and Relentless, as opposed to, you know, just Nimble or Battleforged and Brawny. Especially if you want Resilient as well. My whole point of this is that I didn't take Rotate on a couple of tanks. And it's annoying for sure, but it's workable. It's arguably workable. I still think I would probably want Rotate. But on my front line, I've kind of stopped taking Rotate a lot. And then that works with Quick Hands. You don't need to rotate all the time if you have reach weapons. Which allows a lot more flexibility. It doesn't help you save bros as much. Rotate as a defensive perk is really good and can't be solved by Quick Hands. Maybe it can be solved by Quick Hands Smoke Pot, but I haven't done that. But a lot of people say, you know, rotate on every frontliner, and I used to say rotate on every frontliner. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think a lot of builds are super perk hungry, and if you can drop rotate because you can play well enough to avoid having that bro die all the time, then you could probably, I think you should consider dropping rotate. Let's go over to Let's go over to Turtle. Turtle has an 11% rotation pick rate. And that is it's probably about fair with my most recent campaign, which is probably the tanks and maybe 1 or 2 frontliners. You could arguably put rotate on a backliner, because they have all their HP and all their armor from being on the back line. A guy in the front dies, the backliner rotates, maybe has a pocket shield, and he can survive the extra 1 turn it needs to make that situation less bad. Next is Fearsome. Turtle has a 53% Fearsome pick rate, which is super duper high. Over half of his bros have Fearsome, which is not anywhere near what I'm doing. Now, I would like to know how much that actually helps. I think Fearsome wouldn't really help in, like, friggin' Raider fights or anything, because you just kill them all so quickly. Maybe it really helps against, like, nobles or southern armies. I'm not too sure. And I'd like to know how much that Turtle levels his resolve. You know, you just get a guy to, like, 40 or 50 resolve, or maybe 40 plus the banner gets you 50, and then take Fearsome. And then just, it's basically a passive effect, like, everybody has Fearsome, so I'll get a few more resolve checks here, and that'll help me win. As opposed to my Fearsome video that I did, which was, I'm actively trying to min-max Fearsome. And that video has its flaws, and those builds have their flaws and their merits. But I was doing it more of an active approach, as opposed to I give everybody Fearsome, and it's just kind of a passive thing. He also has a 39% pick rate for Killing Frenzy and a 37% pick rate for Berserk. I don't know. I give those as passive effects. I think those are staples of my company. The Berserk Killing Frenzy combo. I don't try and specialize bros as, like, you're a support and you're a killer. I kind of give them to everybody because I think everybody will proc them so much, and I don't want to have to think about who has Killing Frenzy and who has Berserk and who doesn't. So I give them to everyone. Similar to how he does Pathfinder. My Pathfinder pick rate is going up, and my Recover pick rate is going down. As previously stated, Turtle has a 100% Pathfinder pick rate, and his Recover pick rate is about 11%. My Recover pick rate is likely higher than 11. Probably say it's like 20, 25 on my most recent campaign. It used to be way higher. It used to be like 100% Recover, or maybe 90% Recover. And I still think Recover is a good perk. I think there's more builds that can make use of Pathfinder when you take Polearm spec into account and Quick Hands into account. Like, I think you can just move one in Polearm a lot, and then you don't need a weapon mastery, so if you stand still, you smack them with the two-handed mace, otherwise you Quick Hands and move with a billhook. And that makes Recover less useful, because you can always use your AP. Recover, if you just have, like, I have a two-handed axe, and I don't have Quick Hands, I think Recover has a lot more use for you, because you can't, if you have to move, you already can't use all of your AP to attack. So I think it's okay then to recover, get all your stam back, and then you can start being more effective. But as you increase your flexibility, and you can start using your AP every turn to do damage, there's less of a reason to spend all of your AP to recover. On tanks, I think it's still mandatory, because I'm not going to use things like Indom and Taunt and Shield Wall without having a way to recover my stam. Next is Executioner. 28% Executioner pick rate. It's pretty interesting to me. I don't take it that much. I don't care that much about proccing injuries. His Crippling Strikes pick rate is 21%, which is also higher than what I have. But I would like to know how much that... Why is that taken? Is it a passive effect where, oh, whenever I injure someone, I just do more damage? Like, I don't know if I personally care about that too much. I think I'd rather just kill them. I don't find much use in Crippling Strikes on a lot of bros because I'd rather just kill them than cause injuries. Maybe he builds a shit ton of Shamshir duelists. I'm not really sure. Looking at the bottom of his list, he has Anticipation at 2%. I think I have it at 0%. I don't think range defense is worth it, like, ever. So I don't take Anticipation. I don't take Lone Wolf because I don't put it on. I'd like my company to stick together. My guess, if he had Lone Wolf, was someone who was going into Monolith to be the top tank. And that 4% is probably like one dude. I think that actually is 1 out of 120 is 4%. So I'm gonna guess that was like a Monolith guy. Or maybe it's 2 dudes. Headhunter, my Headhunter pick rate is also sort of low. I made a couple of Axe Duelists with Headhunter. But I don't really use it on anyone else. Indom, 10%. That sounds like you put it on your tanks. That's like 12 dudes. If he has like 5 companies, that's like 2-3 tanks per company. That kind of makes sense to me. Taunt, 5%. That means either he has more people than tanks taking Indom, or not all of his tanks take Taunt. I use Taunt on my tanks. I know Turtle isn't as much of a fan as Taunt as I am, just through talks with other people, or like his posts or whatever. Footwork, I don't use Footwork ever. I don't use 9 lives on late game bros, and he makes a disclaimer that his 0% 9 lives pick rate means bros at level 11 don't have it, but use it in the early game, which is what I do as well. He has a 0% Bullseye pick rate, which I'm starting to do as well. There's definitely an argument for Bullseye being the worst perk in the game, and I think that's kind of funny. Just like, well, I heard Deductor say once, is Bullseye makes you do bad moves, and therefore it's the worst perk. Like, man, I'm gonna shoot a javelin at this guy behind cover, and Bullseye gives me a higher % chance to hit. Yeah, you go from like a 10% chance to hit to a 25% chance to hit. It's still a really bad idea, and you shouldn't do it at all. So Bullseye really does nothing, because if you have a good shot, Bullseye doesn't help you. And if it's a bad shot, you should try and find a good shot. There's the argument for why Bullseye is really bad. Interestingly, while the Battleforged pick rate is 29%, the Brawny pick rate is 10%, which means most of bros with Battleforged don't take Brawny, or at least a significant number of them. I always pair them. If somebody is Battleforged from me, they will take Brawny. Maybe these are 0 stam builds that don't care about their stam, and therefore they can just take Battleforged. I don't like 0 stam builds. I don't like the idea of a 0 stam build. Although maybe I'm contradicting myself with my earlier talk on Recover. But I will almost always take Brawny if I go Battleforged. And to sum it all up, it seems that Turtle and I are pretty similar in terms of our perk pick rate. You know, there's definitely some discrepancies between us, but overall, I think we kind of have a similar placing on where our perks are, especially at the ends of it, with our top perks, like, you know, from Pathfinder to Quick Hands, and then from Bullseye to Lone Wolf at the bottom. I think those are basically the same. So, I would like to, again, say I do not want to put any sort of words in Turtle's mouth. So, if he wants to comment, or if anyone wants to query him, you should definitely do that and not take my word for it. I would love to have a discussion with him. But again, no expectations of anything. I'm doing this independent of him. And I hope that you enjoy and learn from the discussion I had on perks that I used to not use as much, which are Dodge, Adrenaline, Resilient, but not really, Quick Hands, and Nimble. try using a lot of Nimble. Seriously, guys. Nimble is a lot more viable than previous DLCs would explain, and what 3-year-old Filthy Robot videos would explain. Nimble used to probably be so much worse back in the day, and now it's not. So watching those old Filthy guides probably isn't helping the Nimble's case. In any case, I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.